Early on in the collection, let me take a step backwards. Something I was using for a brief period of time on my guitars was this Ibroid Binding, which I included in this guitar. As a new maker, I didn't fully understand how much that binding, that nitrate binding, can shrink initially. And I was buying it in big sheets and cutting it up, machining it to size and putting it on the guitar. I had a number of guitars, and as fortune would have it, including this one, that over time, and not over a lot of time, over a few years or whatever, it would shrink and sometimes pull away from the body. I've repaired some guitars over the years that have had that. And I remember several years after I built the guitar, Randall Kramer from the Smithsonian, mentioned to me that he had noticed it on the guitar and it had caused some lacquer checking and whatnot. I said, man, I'd be happy to take care of it. I wasn't in touch with the family at the time, and I don't know if he was. I never heard from anybody, but it was always something I said, well, someday somebody will have this guitar and have me take care of that. Over the summer, the Archtop Foundation contacted me about the guitar, and I mentioned that, maybe we should take care of this at this point, and they thought that would be perfectly fine, and they sent me the guitar. So that was my reunion with the guitar, not today, but earlier, a few months ago, I received the guitar. And over a period of time, I made some repairs to the binding and to the lacquer, and I did some other things I'll talk about, that to me helped me put this guitar back to where it was intended to be in the first place. The foundation asked me not to make it too perfect, and I guess the easiest thing would have been for me to just simply remove the binding, remove the lacquer, and start over. But instead we did it the hard way, and so it still looks like a 30-year guitar. You can see evidence of some shrinking. I did replace some of the binding, but there are spots that it's pulled away a little, but not so much, and I just made sure everything was intact. And then I made repairs to the lacquer, sanding back some of the clear, and just using some solvents to kind of solidify everything, and then respraying clear. And it came out pretty good, and I think most of it will stick now over time. You'll probably see little signs of, these don't stay new forever. In fact, they don't stay new very long. But it's a guitar that, it can be played and is meant to be played. While it was with me, I spent some time listening to it and thinking about it. Over the years, I've learned that there's so much that can be manipulated tonally on an Archtop after the fact, in the setup, in the bridge, in the height of the tailpiece, just the size of the bridge base. So I had the guitar, and it was an opportunity to experiment a little bit with some things that I had learned over the years. And as it turned out, I did make another bridge for it, slightly wider base, and I think I brought the spacing of the posts in a little bit in relation to where the braces lay. And to me, it's an improvement, but I sent the foundation back the old bridge. Anybody can go back and A/B them if it makes them happy. I think to my ears, it's just closer to the direction that I see these guitars myself for what I like, to my sensibilities. I did replace the tailpiece. This is actually the third tailpiece. I've been using this aesthetic design for a number of years. Since very early on, but the string anchor situation has evolved over time. I first just had some little key slots. The strings would slip out, and over time I found that this was difficult with customers, so I made some improvements. I've made several improvements since even then, and this is the newest incarnation. So again, I think there's two old tailpieces in the case. They all kind of look like this, but this one has the newest string anchor. So there you go. I also included an ebony end pin. As these guitars never meant to have a pickup, it doesn't need a jack, and I originally used an end pin jack for this Saucony tailbit to wrap around. So that's one thing I did. I actually lowered my tailpiece to increase the downward pressure on the top. I thought you could benefit from that. I experimented, and that's where I came down. And it needed a setup, and guitars always just sound better with a setup. So I had to think about the fingerboard and the fretwork a little bit, but I got it playing pretty well now. And the truss rod's acting, leave out the truss rod part. It's working now. It was working before, it's just working better now. There were touch-up issues in the color that I had to address when I was repairing the binding and lacquer. And the only difficulty there was, it was a very specific color Scott asked us to use for these guitars. It was a Mohawk product. They still make that product with the same number, but they changed the formula, I think, right after they made this collection. As it turned out, I saved some original lacquer that I sprayed on this guitar. And it was just in a jar for 30 years or whatever it's been in my shop. And I still had it. It was still good. I was able to make use of that, but it was in colored lacquer form, which is thicker than I sometimes like for just a small area of touch-up where I don't want a lot of build and I just want color. I was fortunate to find at a local craft store, I think Michael's Craft Store, they make a product called Alcohol Ink. And there's a company, I have the company, I can't remember what it is, that makes that product with a color or several colors that are very, very almost identical to this. And if you mix them all, you can nail it. And it seems to work great in the lacquer. I tried suspending it in the lacquer, it worked. And I tried just actually brushing it on and being able to spray over, and that worked as well. And that was, to me, was a huge find. In fact, I kind of wish I found it earlier on in the process. But once I did, I was able to make just some little touch-ups that I think really saved the day. So if anybody needs to know that product, I'm your guy. I'll tell you what it is. Yeah.